Hi everyone, I am Michael. This is the schedule for my book review channel for December 2022. I figured I would read some Christmas romance novels because it's December. That ended up being a terrible mistake because these were not good romance novels. This one was my least favorite. It's about this really mean man from Tasmania who is just terrible to the a Canadian woman, sexually harassing her, trying to sleep with her mother-in-law, and just being a total jerk to her the entire time. Terrible, terrible. I did not like it. The Santa Sleuth was better. This was better. It had a cute kid in it. I don't think their relationship is going to last more than a year because this guy clearly cares more about work than his girlfriend, but he is kind of nice and he's way, way better than the guy in Gift Wrapped. Speaking of bad romances, we have that on the 8th. Babysitters Club number 95. Christy plus Bart equals question mark. This is a very sad book because I really like Christy and Bart. They're my favorite couple of the Babysitters Club universe. And they break up in this book. Christy breaks up with him and he basically disappears for the rest of the series. So that made me sad. I preferred Marianne's biography. This is Marianne's autobiography. I I'm trying to remember what happens. Oh yeah, yeah. Her dad is in this one. Her dad is awesome, and Mimi, Grandma Mimi, is in this one too, and she's also awesome. And Marianne gets to meet her grandmother, which is not as awesome as it should have been. And she's got a picture of a cat there. So does her cat show up in this book? I actually don't think her cat does. Anyway, you'll see on the 8th when this review comes out. On the 11th, Rainbow Magic Fairies, 13 and 18. Yep, 13 and 18. And then on the 14th, the next two River Heights books. I don't remember these at all. This is something like they have a Hawaiian-themed dance, and Kyle has everybody fill out a computer quiz that will randomly determine which people should date each other. And his girlfriend's very jealous because she wants to date him, not some computer program. And I don't remember what happens in book 15 at all. TV, they record something for a school TV program. Then on the 17th, more romance novels. Secret Agent Santa. So this is one where the boss is always sexually harassing her secretary and forcing him to make out with her and forcing him to go on dates with her, and it's really bad. The book tries to justify it by saying, oh, he's a secret agent. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. It's still terrible. I preferred Secret Agent Santa, which is a spy novel. It really is a spy novel. It's got a little bit of romance, but it's mostly a spy novel, and it's not really a Christmas book either. It's this guy has to stop terrorists from blowing up the White House, but one of the terrorists is connected to a senator who killed the woman's mother like 20 years ago. Very exciting stuff. So I would say Secret Agent Santa is better than Secret Agent Santa. Yep. And then the next two Babysitters Club books. Abby's Lucky 13, where Abby and her sister Anna both have a bat mitzvah. They officially turned 13. That was interesting. Abby she gets in trouble in school, I think, and she tries to hide it from her mom. She doesn't want her mom to know that, oh, she got in big trouble. And yeah, Mallory did that already, and Mallory hates boys in gym, but I still thought it was an interesting book. I did like it, although the final part kind of drags, because it's mostly a bunch of relatives that we haven't seen before, and we really don't see them again outside of Abby in Wonderland, I think, and that was a pretty terrible book. Not as good as this one. Speaking of bad books, I did not like Mystery Number 24, Marianne and the Silent Witness. Just a terribly done book. There's so many problems with it. I can't describe them all now. Just watch my review. You'll hear me complain about it in detail. It made like the list of the top, my top 10 list of the top 10 worst Babysitters Club mysteries, and like my top 10 list of top 10 worst Babysitters Club books ever. So I had to summarize this book for 2 top 10 videos. That's how bad I think this mystery was. Just a confusing mess. I gave it a low rating. On the 23rd, 2 more Rainbow Magic fairy things, special edition number 2 and Phoebe the Fashion Fairy. And then we have the commissions at the end of the month as usual. So Hannah Swensen number 22 is Raspberry Danish Murder. So Hannah's husband, Ross, he disappeared without a trace. And she hasn't bothered to look for him. It's been like 2 weeks. She has done no investigation into the fact that her husband disappeared. And they drag out the missing husband story as long as possible. And at the very end of the book, they're like, "Oh no, Hannah, your husband ran away because he has a secret wife. Oh, you'd better buy the next book to see what happens next." Which is exactly what they did at the end of the previous book when he disappeared. So I'm getting really fed up with the romance in this Hannah Swensen series. It feels like she only married Ross so they could have cliffhangers, right? So they had it's not like he's an actual person who's participating in her life. And that just makes me mad. Okay, other books I'm going to be reading. Cirque du Freak. So I've been commissioned to read Cirque du Freak number 7, and it's Sammy Key's number 4, Runaway Elf. I guess that's appropriate because it's a Christmas book, and I'll be reviewing it on Christmas. The other book I've been commissioned to read is Among the Barons, which is the next book in the Shadow Children series by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And here are the books I read this past month, November. Barbie, Rescue of the Unicorn. That was a fun fantasy book. Barbie, A Place Called Home was a book about summer camp and divorce. I didn't like it, although other people really liked this book and thought it dealt with the tough topic of divorce in a way that children can understand. I, however, did not like the book. I thought it really wasn't a Barbie book. It felt like a totally different book, and they just slapped Barbie's name on it afterwards. I also read Barbie, the Silver Deer, which is another fantasy book about a magic talking deer that switches places with a human, and Barbie, the Giant Panda Problem, where Barbie works at the zoo and one of the pandas will not eat. So those 4 Barbie books are like half of the books I read this past month. I did not do a lot of reading this past month. I spent pretty much all my time writing Cat President 3. That was my big project for the month. I wrote all of Cat President 3. The game is done. I'm going to have to do a lot of editing, yes. I'm sure my editor will send the scripts back to me with lots of changes that need to be made. But I'm very glad that the project is finally done because it seemed to have taken over my entire life. Like I could not get any work done because all I was doing was Cat President 3 in November. Okay, but I did read some other books. So, Nancy Drew Files number 75, A Talent for Murder, which is another bad romance book. I don't know why that's a theme in this video. So, it comes right after the Summer of Love trilogy, where Nancy almost married that Australian guy named Mick. Well, she comes back home, and now she's having romance drama with Ned, because he's getting really close to this hot supermodel, and they kiss, and Nancy doesn't talk to him about it. She really wants to talk to him about the fact that he was making out with a supermodel, but he says nothing, so she says nothing, and then they just sort of ignore it at the end. What happens is that there's a hot air balloon which almost crashes with Ned inside, and he's like, "Oh, I had such a terrible near-death experience, Nancy. It made me realize I love you more than anything else." And then all is forgiven, and they never talk about the fact that they both cheated on each other repeatedly. It's not a good romance. Harlequin number 15, Virgin with Butterflies, which is a comedy book with a weird title and a weird cover. I did not like this book. I read a third of the book, and I'm like, nope, not for me. It's not good. So I feel like I spend half of this review talking about the cover, because it's a comedy book, and it just wasn't funny at all. Speaking of comedy books, which I didn't think were too funny, The Unabridged, Uncensored, Unbelievable Garfield, which did have some good jokes. I thought it was a lot funnier than Virgin with Butterflies was. However, compared to other Garfield books, this is pretty bad. So you will eventually hear me talk about why I think this book is so bad whenever I publish this review publicly. It's a short book, so it's half as long as a normal Garfield book, and it only has one comic per page, so half the comics of a normal Garfield book. So half the comics and half the pages, it's got a quarter of the content. That's how the math works out. And that's what my score for the book is, 2.5 out of 10, because it's got a quarter of the normal content you would expect from Garfield. It feels like most of these strips were just ideas that were discarded, or the author was just recycling old ideas, and yeah, it was not a good book. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully next month I'll be able to read more books, more of the Nancy Drew Files series, and bye!